Okay, so since I figured that Kevin OU, Kevin Black and White OU replay analysis isn't really happening because of SPL and the other stuff that may happen in people's lives, I figured, hey, I may as well serve the population some of my own replay analysis. So I'm just going to be going over my games from week 3 onwards. So week 1, there already exists an analysis by Dance of Hearts. And then week 2, I didn't play because I got destroyed by Monai in week 1. So I think we'll start off week 3. And basically, I wanted to play a lot of the first 4 Pokemon you'll see on my team. So Tornadus Therian, Excadrill, Landoti, and Rotom Wash. And I think my opponent, so in week 3, this is Amy Quaris. They had a similar idea, and my last 2 were Garchomp and Jirachi, and their 2 are Ferrothorn and Heatran. So, team preview. What did I think? Who did I lead? Okay, so going back, I lead Torn because it is the fastest thing, and it just guarantees me a neutral lead into everything. And if it is a Scarf, I guess I wasn't really thinking of Scarf Rotom because that's what he wants to use to check my Torn. So I kind of just assumed it was Spit F. I could have scouted it, but I opted not to, and I just got U-turn chip on Rotom. So this is a Life Orb Torn, and I go to Jirachi just to absorb Will-O-Wisp because you want passive damage against Torn. I have Life Orb. If I'm burned, I'm already on timer, and then if Amy Quaris gets up rocks, then Torn is on an even faster timer, and Torn is so threatening that you want to limit as much as possible. But they Volt Switch into Heatran, and no Air Balloon, so I'm thinking, okay, either this or Lando is their Stealth Rocker, so I don't want to stay with Jirachi, so I go to Lando T, and they click Lava Plume and get the burn. So I don't think this was the best play by me, but I think going to Rotom, I was a bit cautious about Rotom because I didn't want it to get potentially lured by Heatran, and then now I'm a lot weaker against Tornadus Therian, and this is also an opportunity for me to get up Stealth Rock. So that was what I was considering. And double switches aren't really into my consideration right now because hazards aren't up. So a double switch isn't as impactful at the current moment until hazards get set up. So I reveal leftovers. So they go to Tornadus Therian as I get up Stealth Rock, and now their Tornadus in and Stealth Rock is up, but they haven't taken Rock, so I have to figure out what I'm going to go into, and I switch into Rotom Wash, and he gets Focus Blast and the crit. And that bites, but, I have 2 checks to Torn, or I have 2 things that can handle Torn, so it's not the end of the world. So I go to my backup in Jirachi, and he reveals HP Grass. And I think week 1 versus Monai, when they HP Grassed my Starmie, that was the first time I became aware of HP Grass Torn. And it's obviously meant to hit Rotom really hard. And I saw Focus Blast Hidden Power. That kind of implies Torn might not be able to hit this Jirachi really well, because if they have 4 attacks, then that last slot could go to Heat Wave, but it could also go to Taunt to stop entry hazards from going up. It could go U-turn, which is what I've revealed, U-turn. So Jirachi comes in, and they bring in extra drill to try and spin, and I click wish. So um, with the intention of healing something. I wanted to heal Rhoda, so it better checks Tornadus Therian. But I felt it was too risky to go into Rotom because I didn't want to walk into EQ and then just lose my best Torn check. And so I made the safer move and went to Lando T. And the reason why I made this move is if they spin, then I can put rocks back up and I'm getting healed. And they're -1 and Iron Head won't break me. See, I take 28 and then I get healed by Wish and I EQ them. They could have switched to Rotom, but I would have just U-turned out and just tried to force as much damage onto this Rotom as possible as they spin. So I EQ as they spin, and now I'm thinking just maybe they protect. So I put Stealth Rock up, and they Iron Head, and now EQ is a guaranteed KO. So I'm thinking, okay, they want to preserve Excadrill because if they just lose it here, I'll put rocks back up, and then Torn Therian, Lando T, Rotom, they're all on a timer. Even Heatran, and that could a Heatran coming in on Stealth Rock reveals leftovers. So I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna want to preserve Drill, so I can take advantage. I can capitalize on that by clicking U-turn, and if let's say they stay in, then I still have Torn to put pressure on them. So when they switch to Lando, I U-turn out, and I don't have a clean switch because I don't know if this is defensive or Choice Scarf. But I think Torn T can handle it pretty well. Oh no, I go to Rotom. Yeah, if this is defensive, it can't touch me at all. So that was what I was thinking. But I was clearly not reading, and Lando didn't have leftovers. So this was Choice Scarf. But I wasn't reading, so they click U-turn and go to Drill, as I think I burned this. Do I burn it? Or no, I Pain Split. Okay. Solid move by me. I got a bit greedy, but I saw like a 9 full health Lando in front of me, so I kind of went for that. So now Rotom is starting to get healed, and I'm playing very carefully with this. So I go to Torn, and they spin, which just covers all the options because I'm not even faster than them. And the Stealth Rocker is not in front of Drill, not to mention it's extremely weak. So it doesn't exactly switch into much. So spinning was the correct play there. So now my Torn is in on their weakened Drill. They go to their own Torn, and I Superpower. So this is one of the moves that I had on my Torn. So I'm not going to reveal the set, but it has U-turn and Superpower. And so now I go to Jirachi again as they Hurricane, and they get the Confusion, which is not the end of the world. They taunt me, and now I can't potentially wish into Lando or Rotom. They go into Drill, and I don't reveal my move. So I'm not going to tell you what I did, but Confusion helped me there in a way because now Amy doesn't get to see what I would have done. They only know that my Jirachi has Wish. And maybe they presume that it has Protect, so that Jirachi could receive its own wishes, but that is still not available to them. So I go into Torn, and I did the calcs. It would take this unless it crit, which, I mean, I shouldn't have risked, but oh well. I U-turn out, and I think I go into Rotom Wash on Iron Head. So I'm just trying to heal up Torn. I'm trying to pivot around this drill. I go to Lando. As I sack it, they just take it out. I think I was trying to bait EQ into this, just trying to get Intimidates off on this and go back into Torn. But they just Iron Head again. Good play by them. And now I Hurricane into their Rotom. And then they go into Torn as I U-turn out. I go back into Jirachi. They go into Heatran, and I Body Slam, and they get paralyzed. So this is a Body Slam Jirachi. I like Body Slam on Jirachi, but, you know, even at 60%, sometimes RNG doesn't pay off, but in this case it did. So then I go to Rotom because I figure, okay, this Heatran can't really do too much. Evidently, this Lando isn't the Stealth Rocker. Like, at the time, I think I still thought it was. But this Heatran is. But I was also thinking, if this Heatran is a Stealth Rocker, it can't do a whole lot to me. So I get off Pain Split because I'm now faster than Heatran, and double paralysis kind of sucks for Amy Quaris, because if that had Toxic, maybe that would have been very important to get on Rotom, for instance, or maybe just try and get Lava Plume burns, or just trap it with Magma Storm. So they protect as I click Hydro Pump. So that's one Hydro Pump used on my part. And then I Volt Switch out and bring in Excadrill, and they get full paralyzed. So that was very lucky by me, because if they click Lava Plume, Excadrill is in a really bad position, because it just took the super effective fire move, and then maybe it also gets burned, and then now Excadrill is in a bad position. But I didn't want to risk going into anything else there. And like, I didn't want to get Garchomp burned, for instance. And this was just pretty lucky by me. So they go into Torn, and I click Iron Head, and that crit. And yeah, the luck is starting to go my way in this game. Yeah, so that's really, really unfortunate for Amy Quaris. So I go to Rotom Wash as they click U-turn, just to get momentum again, and they go into Excadrill. And then I go into Garchomp as they reveal Sword Stance, which I think, based on the way I had played, I was playing very carefully with Rotom Wash. I was not risking it, so I think it was good on them to try and to capitalize by clicking Sword Stance. It was well played on their part. So they go out into Lando. I click EQ into the Lando, and I switch out into Jirachi on their U-turn. And I think I wasn't... Is there a better move I could have made? If I had Garchomp in on a defensive Landorus, what would the move... what move should I have made? Because in my mind, this is still defensive Landorus. Even though I have not seen a tick of leftovers yet, in my mind, this is still defensive Landorus, which is like... That was like a complete misplay on my part. Was Jirachi the best move I could have made? Maybe it was. Just trying to sack it to gain momentum. I'm not sure. Oh, I think I anticipated HP Ice. I didn't want to risk... I should have gone Rotom. I don't know why I didn't go Rotom. Maybe it's because I was like trying to preserve HP for Heatran, maybe. But they U-turn into Excadrill, and I know this is Sword Stance. And I go into Torn again. They click EQ on the Steel type. Fine, and I get the Torn in again. And then they go Ferrothorn, and then I click Superpower, and it does a good amount of damage. And then I checked the damage calcs, and I saw Hurricane would kill, and I figured I'm not going to reveal my last. I want to click Hurricane because if I need to, I still have my last move unrevealed. And spoiler alert, it goes unrevealed for the rest of the game. They bring in Rotom, so I just U-turn out, and they get crit. So things have been going a bit my way this game. So it is just part of the game. Like, you can't remove crits and full paralysis from the game. They are 1 in 16 and 1 in 2, I think, for full paralysis. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I U-turn out of into Jirachi on Rotom, and I absorb Hydro. As Rotom misses Will-O-Wisp. Again, like, Willow misses. They're just... It's unfortunate that that's how the game's going, but it's like all I can really do is just try and take advantage of it, you know. I body slammed the Rotom as the Rotom burns me. Just trying to wear it down more for Tornadus Therian. I don't know why I didn't just body slam again. There's no real reason not to. Maybe I was just trying to capitalize on some sort of switch out, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe body slam didn't kill. I don't have my damage calcs in front of me though. But I could have just body slammed. Maybe I didn't want to give a free turn to Excadrill. No, I don't. That wouldn't have been a problem. I should have body slammed here. Let's see. Body slam. 21. Over 2. Should be 10. This is at 9 HP. Why didn't I body slam? So I go to Rotom Wash and absorb another Will-O-Wisp, but now Rotom is at full HP against 2 ground types and a fire type. So that I think that's not bad. Maybe I had a reason for clicking Wish instead of Body Slam. Who knows? So I burn the Rotom. That's always useful, as I said earlier. Getting chip on Torn is important, but getting chip on Rotom is important for your own Tornadus Therian. So they go into Excadrill to take advantage of my Rotom. So I switch out and go into Tornadus Therian. It lives on 2 HP, and I take it out with Superpower. I don't think the crit mattered. But that live, I'm not sure what kind of role it had, but that was very fortunate. So we both die on the double down, but I am up a Mon. I'm up a Mon, and I go to Jirachi because it's the least value of the remaining Pokemon. Jirachi, Lando T. I still don't think this is defensive Landorus. I don't think this is defensive Landorus until like later. This is not defensive Landorus, sorry. I wish here, and then I go to Rotom Wash on the Lava Plume, just keeping Rotom healthy for the rest of the battle. They click Protect and get full paralyzed, but I miss Hydro, so nothing happens. Now they actually get Protect, and Hydro hits, and then I believe they go to Rotom here. They go to Rotom here, as I miss another Hydro Pump on the switch. I Volt Switch out into Jirachi because I recognize that sacking Jirachi just gives me momentum in this endgame. They go to Lando. I go to Rotom. And they reveal Stone Edge. And this is when I realized, wait, this is not a defensive Landorus, because no self-respecting defensive Landorus runs Stone Edge. So I figure, oh, well, this is a Scarf Landorus. Interesting. I'm pretty sure, like, I'm thinking, oh, if this is defensive Lando, they're not going to stay in because they can't touch me. At best, they can set up Stealth Rock. But if they set up Stealth Rock, they get one turn to do it, and then they're forced to U-turn out, and I can Volt Switch there. But them going to that, that's kind of a concern. So I go to Drill, and they click Stone Edge. Missing that doesn't matter because I would just, I wouldn't take much, right? And it's a quad resisted move. So they go to Rotom, and I think I click EQ. Yep, I click EQ, and Lando comes out again. So now he knows it's Scarf Lander, so it's safe to protect here. They click U-turn, and I go to Garchomp here because, to get Rough Skin. That's just good to have that. Although I could have also just EQ'd there, and then it would have also been totally fine. They go to Lando again, and I EQ into it just to make the best play. And then I just sack Rotom Wash here to HP Ice. The crits didn't really... Well, the crits... Maybe the crit mattered? They probably... wait. That crit on Rotom did 13. So 13 over 2 is around 7. Plus burn, that's 12, 19. So I came in last turn at 24 HP, or 24%. Minus 19 is still, like, enough for me to be taken out by second HP Ice. So Rotom still dies here. It doesn't really matter. The crit didn't matter. And I was planning on sacking it anyway. So now Drill comes in, and I EQ on the switch. Again, this HP Ice Lando can't touch Drill, so it's safe to EQ, and then I just protect. And just to check the move, it's Earthquake. So I sack Drill, and then go to Garchomp, and Lando is bulky enough to take that, so if they crit me, I would have lost, but they didn't. That's week 3, and this was my first win, so I was very happy about winning. I even say in the chat, sorry for that, because things went very much my way in the middle of the battle. So yeah, during that second week when I wasn't playing, I was just building a lot of teams. So this was one of the teams I had built, and I'm glad after testing and all, it worked out very well. Yeah, this one just kind of gave me my confidence back. Like, yeah, I'm playing black and white. Kevin's black and white, and I can actually do well. So we go to the 4th week. So this is me versus Rubycandy. So this is a team that Blue had built. They urged me, hey, you should use this, and I had tested it, and it seemed pretty solid. You can actually see the Terrakion mirror, and actually neither me nor my opponent Rubycandy are using Torn T. So they're actually using like a Smurf-like hyper offense, but going into team preview, since I had this game much clearer in my memory, I was basically thinking, okay, this is kind of awkward, but basically they only have one of 2 leads, and that's their Terrakion or their Garchomp. And I spent a good amount of time on team preview just thinking, who do I lead? Into Terrakion or into Garchomp? And basically the only answer that made sense to me was Landorus Therian. So I lead Terrakion. I lead into Terrakion. So I'm thinking, okay, this is their lead. This is Taunt Terrakion. I think that was the one I was more suspecting, because Garchomp was more established on these hyper offense structures, just like Yachi Sword Stance. So yeah, they clicked taunt, which is really fortunate. I was just like, I couldn't really stop them from clicking Stealth Rock. So if they didn't click Stealth Rock, that would be the ideal. And fortunately, they didn't, because I just click U-turn and bring in Excadrill. So I don't know. Maybe they're thinking, oh, this is going to be like. In hindsight, I shouldn't have just gone Excadrill, because this is like like if I were to go into a different mon, I'd probably go into like Amoonguss or my own Terrakion or something like that. But going into Drill is very questionable, because obviously Terrakion outspeeds Excadrill. So why is he going Excadrill? Because it's Scarf Excadrill. So so in hindsight, I should not have been so greedy. I should not have I should not have just gone Excadrill, but it's also like a poor play on Ruby's end to not suspect, hey, something's up with this drill. Maybe I should go into Starmie, which maybe has Air Balloon, for instance. Or Dragonite, which is immune to Earthquake, or Volcar. I don't think you could switch into Dragonite or Volcarona, but like Starmie's probably your best switch. But I guess, this being a hyper offensive team, they couldn't really switch around as easily. So yeah, they go directly into Volk, and I figured, okay. Speaking of Scarf Drill, I was thinking, what move do I lock into? Do I lock into Earthquake or Iron Head? I thought, okay, well, if I lock into Iron Head, Volk comes in, which I have 2 checks to it in Tyranitar and Terrakion. Whereas if I click EQ, Dragonite gets a free turn of setup, and this team isn't quite as it's not well equipped to handle it as well. So I lock into Iron Head because Volcarona is probably the better one to go up against. And I switch in Tyranitar as a Quiver Dance. Makes sense. They Bug Buzz into Tyranitar, and I paralyze it. And fortunately for me, they're not Lumberry. This Lumberry Volcarona lives in my nightmares. So yeah, there's that. And Tyranitar just crunches it down as it gets taken down, but Sand is active, and now Excadrill, because it is now faster, just removes it with Rock Slide. And then, again, I did not want to lock into Earthquake, because now Dragonite gets a free turn of setup. And then I didn't want to click Iron Head because it risked Flame Body. So I basically I knew I had to go Rock Slide. So I went Rock Slide, and they bring out Garchomp. So on the face of it, I have no clue. This could be Choice Scarf Garchomp, or this could be Swords Dance Garchomp. So I just go Lando, and they are indeed Swords Dance, which is good news to me, which means Terrakion does outspeed, and this is actually Choice Band Terrakion, so nothing switches into this. Even if it was like a more bulkier team, it would still basically clean up the end game against unboosted threats. They click Outrage against Lando, and they don't take Yachi. So I'm trying to remember. I don't entirely remember what set this is. But the problem is, so I think I sack Lando here. Yeah, I sack Lando here. And basically the concern is, what if they get 2-turn Outrage? Because if they get 3-turn Outrage, I can just remove it with Excadrill or Terrakion. But if they get, that's if they get 3-turn. 3-turn is the ideal because they're just locked in. But if they get 2-turn, then I don't have clean ways to capitalize. And I don't think I was real willing to risk Excadrill, switching into Excadrill there. So I think I just let Garfield go down. And unfortunately for me, they get the 2-turn outrage. So, which means all I can do is force Garchomp out. And I don't even have rocks. So I just go Terrakion. And they are indeed Air Balloon Starmie. And this was the better place to go because Iron Head lets in Scizor, but Terrakion lets nothing in. So, except for a singular time Starmie can switch in. So, Starmie loses its Air Balloon, and I go into Amoonguss, and they miss the Hydro, which is unfortunate, but I think I was prepared. It's like, I was thinking Amoonguss could take it or something like that. I had a reason to go into Amoonguss. I didn't want to go into Rotom too quickly. Because, I needed to go Amoonguss because Scizor was looking threatening. And I wanted Rotom for it. They click Ice Beam as I switch into Excadrill. So this is eject button Amoonguss. This is a really cool part. It's like you go to Terrakion, you lock into a choice move, then you switch out of, like, let's say you kill them on and then they go into a resist. Then you go into Amoonguss, they try and hit you, and then you come back, and then you go back into Terrakion, and now you have the other stab ready for them. So that's pretty cool. So they bring it Drill. So I just Iron Head. Again, I'm trying not to let Dragonite in. And then Scizor comes in, and I go into Amoonguss as they SD. And here I figured, okay, I didn't want to go into Rotom immediately because +2 superpower would just destroy it. And so I go into Amoonguss because if I get the KO, I can go into one of these two. And it lives, actually, which is very fortunate. And then I get Stun Spore off. So here, I make a very poor decision. I think this decision cost me the entire game. I go Excadrill. Why don't I go Excadrill? Because if you look at the rest of the team, so I could either go Rotom or I could go Excadrill. So who's a better mon to go into? Well, if you look at it, you have Dragonite and Garchomp. Now, Garchomp's already weakened, so Scarf Drill cleans that up. And then Dragonite, even at +1, gets outsped by Excadrill, who is Sandforce, actually. So it is running Jolly because Sandforce makes up for the lack of strength. So I should not have gone Excadrill. I should have gone to Rotom and tried to weaken the Scizor as much as possible before cleaning up with Excadrill. Instead, what happens? EQ doesn't get the kill. Scizor superpowers my Excadrill, and now I'm down one cleaner. Stuck with a Rotom Wash that doesn't even outspeed anything. So that's a double down, and this is very bad for me. So this is the big mistake for me. This is what cost me the game. So I go to Terrakion. They go to their Garchomp. Makes sense. Terrakion, I did the calc. Choice Band Terrakion only kills. I didn't want to click CC against against Garchomp because Dragonite resists. So I wanted to click Stone Edge. And I have two rock moves, Stone Edge and Rock Slide. But Rock Slide doesn't KO, even with the Choice Band. And so Stone Edge misses. Garchomp hits the EQ. I go to Rotom. Maybe something could happen, but nope, outrage crit. That's the game. So I played well for the first, I don't know how many turns that is, but up until I get Excadrill into Scizor instead of Rotom onto Scizor, which is the play I should have taken. That, I think, cost me the game. Even if I missed a Hydro with Rotom, the Scizor's still taking Life Orb chip damage. So even if we go back to that turn where so here, EQ barely missed out on the KO. You see they're at 3% HP. That Scissor's at 3% HP. If that's one extra turn of Life Orb recoil against Rotom, then even Rotom missing Hydro is significant because then Scizor has to use Superpower in order to KO, and that's a turn of Life Orb. So even the act of just going Extra Drill on this turn when Amoonguss died was just a poor decision by me. So that one poor decision gave Rubycandy an exploitable advantage, and then that one mistake put me in a place to miss Stone Edge and lose the game. So it was an entirely preventable loss, but overall I played well. So even though I could identify immediately where I had messed up and knew I could improve upon that for the next week. So this is week 5, and I'm going up against Oldcvcv, and this is the game I played yesterday, the 20th of January. So you see this team, you obviously you see Skarmory and Alakazam, and you think, oh, Spikes, and yes, that is Spikes. And I wanted to run Spikes with Tornadus Therian because Torn T abuses Spikes with U-turn while also being immune to Spikes and taking no damage from them. So I felt, okay, it's a similar concept to what Psy Spikes is all about. Magic Guard Spikes, all that. Except instead of Magic Guard poke, it's a flying type. And then in this team, I threw on Gliscor to just give me more longevity. Then Oldcvcv just brings another hyper offense team because the 2 times I played hyper offense this season so far, I'd lost once to Monai and once to Rubycandy. So here on Team Preview, I'm thinking, okay, this is kind of awkward to bring Alakazam, considering they have 6 Pokemon that don't care about it. Or they have 5 pokes that don't care about it, and then the last, Jellicent, if I'm not running Shadow Ball, which I don't think I was, it doesn't care either. So, yeah, Alakazam, I basically identified immediately was going to be nigh completely useless. And its greatest amount of value would be paralyzing a Volcarona. So I lead. So I'm 99% sure they're going to lead one of Skarmory, Tornadus Therian, or Jirachi. So in all 3 of those scenarios, I should lead Rotom Wash, and that's what I do. I lead Rotom Wash. And I'm thinking, okay, if they're leading Skarmory, that means Custap, which kind of supports, yeah, they're running hyper offense. Yeah, they click Stealth Rock, and I click Volt Switch. I couldn't really figure out a way to consistently prevent Skarmory from getting, 2 turns. So I didn't know, this was pretty much the only move I could have made. And I go Alakazam because I figured, okay, Alakazam's not too useful anyway. Might as well, breaking Sash here is not the end of the world, even though it kind of sucks to break Sash on the lead. And they Brave Bird and take themselves out, and I reveal Hidden Power. So, yeah. They immediately go into Jirachi, and I was thinking, okay, here what do I do? Do I switch out? Do I stay in and sacrifice Alakazam, which is not it's not the least appetizing thing for me because I realized that what is Alakazam going to do against Volcarona or Tornadus Therian, or even against this Jirachi, which will just come in and out all game. And I kind of thought this was. And then I thought, okay, Jirachi is either one of 2 things. It's either Scarf Jirachi or one of those specially defensive Jirachis. And it's going to tell me right now. Specially defensive Jirachi just comes in all game, and Alakazam can never break it, essentially. Not without, spikes and stuff. And if it's Scarf Jirachi, it also reveals that right now and becomes more exploitable at the end game. So they click U-turn. That's a Scarf Jirachi. They go into Tornadus Therian, and I go into Rotom Wash. So unlike the other game where I had Jirachi, where I had that Rotom and Jirachi team against Amy Quaris, I don't have a backup Torn check when they click Hidden Power Grass. And I click Volt Switch, but Rotom is starting to be a bit dented for Tornadus Therian and Jirachi. So Tornadus takes a good amount of HP, and I go into Garchomp, and I try and chase out this Torn because I'm thinking, okay, I'm trying to essentially say, okay, if this is Scarf Chomp, what else would I go into? You've dented my Rotom, and it's actually on the way out, so I may as well go into Garchomp. But they make a good call and just stay in Hurricane and just calling out my play, saying, okay, kill my Tornadus, go ahead, do it. And they take a nice, good amount of damage on my Gliscor. And yeah, now I'm kind of in a bad position because now Gliscor is just stuck on the field. So they actually hard switch here, and I think I think they might have tried to scout me going into something, or tried to. No, they just wanted to bring Cloyster in on a clearly weakened Gliscor and just try and set up. So I click Protect here. I should have probably clicked Stealth Rock, but I didn't want to risk just losing Gliscor against Tornadus. And this is my Stealth Rocker, by the way. So I actually kind of need this to handle Volk. Oh, baby. So I get a bit of recovery, and I'm thinking, okay, heck. All right, so Cloyster's in, and it'll clean my team if I don't give it any sort of respect. So it clicks Shell Smash, and here I click U-turn, which I have on this Gliscor, because the standard set has knockoff as the last. Let me drink water. Yeah, normally like the standard last is knockoff to just like rub in more sand chip, but this team isn't really a sand team, so I figured U-turn would be more useful anyway. So I U-turn, and it also better abuses spikes, so that's also why U-turn is very useful. So I go into Skarmory, who is my one-time emergency stop to Cloyster. It holds, and I whirlwind it out into Volcarona. And here I was thinking, okay, if Volk whirlwinds, or if Volk just tries to QD on me, I'll just click Brave Bird, and I'll just try and damage it as much as possible because I have ways to handle it. And if you're astute, you might think that's my Garchomp, which it is. On the other hand, if he just takes out Skarmory, then no harm, no foul, Torn comes in for free, and can start threatening it. But they go into Torn because I think, I don't know, maybe just Tanks is the best. They could have gone Jirachi as well, or Jellicent. But they go into Torn and take a good amount of damage, and excuse me, I missed that turn. But they taunt me because they can't attack me because they're Life Orb, and they would lose their fastest Pokemon outside of their Scarf Jirachi. And I just go for Roost for whatever reason. But I think just taunting covers the most options. Like, if this is a defensive Skarmory, 3 of my 4 moves are not attacking moves. And then trading down is not the end of the world because Cloyster, like, if I click Brave Bird, then Cloyster becomes unlocked. So Yeah. They go into Jirachi, and I just click Brave Bird and sacrifice Skarmory, and I bring in Rotom Wash to just try and heal some HP back. So they U-turn out into Jellicent. Um, I think so. From their end, they know that their Jellicent's holding eject button, which I wouldn't find out for another couple turns. But basically, they're just trying to bring in Tornadus Therian back in, essentially. And they didn't want to risk it getting hit because it's at 3% currently, plus Regenerate, that's 28%. It's dying to Volt Switch, essentially. But I click Pain Split, and that heals Rotom a good bit. Actually, quite a lot of HP. So we trade Will-O-Wisps here, just trying to wear each other down. And then they recover with their Jellicent here as I Volt Switch and get a crit on them, which is kind of fortunate on my part. But it triggers their eject button. They get to go back into Tornadus Therian. The crit is good and bad. I mean, if I get Stealth Rock up, now you have a sack. Or in general, you could sack Jellicent and bring in something else. Like maybe Garchomp forces out Jirachi. You sack Jellicent to bring in Cloyster, for instance. Or if I lock into EQ, sack and bring Torn. So it's good and bad, but it is good for. It could be either good for me or good for him. But how Oldcvcv chooses to play that Jellicent matters more than the fact that it got crit. Yeah. So Tornadus has come back in, and it goes back into Jirachi as I double the Gliscor. And I know that this is a Scarf Jirachi. I think I tried to just go get up Stealth Rock and try to limit the number of times these 3 attackers come in, but they just clicked the super effective move, and good on their part. They've locked into Ice Punch though, so Rotom Wash just comes in for free, and so now they have to switch, but no, they don't. I guess they try and predict me wanting to switch into something else and just click Ice Punch. But I don't have to predict. I can just click Volt Switch. So what I do is just Pain Split, and that's actually very important because now, if you'll notice, if this is a Scarf Jirachi, it's not super bulky. So having it weaken is very important for Tornadus and for Garchomp in the endgame. Now they realize, okay, the jig is up. Jirachi cannot stay in because I'm just going to click Volt Switch. So they switch out into the Jellicent, and then I Wisp it because I think I'm trying to make the neutral play into their Jirachi. I was trying to make the play into their Jirachi of trying to burn it so that now Tornadus Therian doesn't even care about it. Also notice I've not brought Torn out a single time, whereas all of the rest of their mons, all Oldcvcv's mons have been damaged except for Volk, which has still seen the battle, but has not gotten a chance to set up. So Garchomp and Torn exert a lot of pressure because they're at full HP or near full HP, whereas Oldcvcv has a dented team, essentially. So even though I'm down 2 mons, the game is far from over. So Oldcvcv starts sacking, so he sacks Jellicent and brings in Torn, and now Torn is very healthy, in fact, against my Rotom, so it can safely HP Grass me, and it chooses to do so. But it'll also die to Volt Switch. So I bring in Torn because they don't have speed control anymore. Their Jirachi's their speed control, but I'm going to sack it to get a Scout off. And then Garchomp comes in, and you have 3 grounded pokes versus a stab EQ. Now, here's a little bit of endgame technique. Who do you go into first? if you're Oldcvcv? The answer is Jirachi, of course. So that's who they go. Now here I sack Rotom Wash as the U-turn. Okay. You know that Jirachi's on the way out, so I'm obviously bringing in Torn. So who do you go into here? The answer is Volcarona. Volcarona can be sacked because suppose Garchomp is Choice Scarf. You have not seen this item. Maybe it is. Okay, suppose if it isn't Choice Scarf, then, it outspeeds. It's a natural outspeed to Volcarona, right? So when Garchomp comes in, it still kills Volcarona, but you can take advantage of it. If it is Choice Scarf Volcarona, Choice Scarf Garchomp, then even if you get a Quiver Dance off of Volcarona, maybe I miss Hurricane, for instance, then Garchomp still cleans. So you go Volcarona because sacking Volcarona opens up opportunities for Cloyster because Cloyster can still Shell Smash on Garchomp, but it can't Shell Smash on Tornadus Therian. So the scenarios are, if you go Volk, if I go Torn, then you could either sack Volk or you could just go hard Jirachi and, play from there. But if I go into Garchomp, then sacking Volk opens up an opportunity for Cloyster. But they go into Cloyster, and I identified this immediately as a mistake, even though all this I had calculated later. I knew going into Cloyster immediately was a big mistake because I would just go Tornadus Therian, and now I'm saying, hang on, you have a low special defense. What are you doing? And he just loses Cloyster, and we can open the damage calculator, so that'll take a bit of time. Hang on. I should have set this up a bit sooner. Hang on. Okay, so here's the damage calculator. Can you guys see that? Oh, you should be able to see that. There we go. Okay, we have the damage calculator in front of us. Let's go to Generation 5 and just go to Garchomp, Choice Scarf, into Cloyster Shell Smash. As you can see, Earthquake doesn't even do half. Outrage barely does half. Now, if we go back into the replay, we sack Rotom here. They go into Cloyster. Cloyster's at 81%. So I would have to crit Earthquake or Outrage. You can actually probably see it better. So let me apply the crit. Yeah, I would have to crit with Earthquake. And then even then, it's not a guaranteed KO, right? On Earthquake. Okay, I guess it is showing that it's a guaranteed KO. All right, but yeah, I would have to exactly crit here if in order for Garchomp to not let Cloyster set up. But by going hard Cloyster, I don't have to go Garchomp. I can go Torn. So that's the difference between going Volcarona versus going Cloyster. So I Hurricane Cloyster, and Oldcvcv, what the endgame I had expected was they go Jirachi, click Ice Punch on Torn, and then I clean up with Garchomp. Instead, they go Volcarona, which makes sense. You want to try and get that QD off. But Hurricane doesn't miss here, and then they go into Jirachi, and then Ice Punch, and then I go into Garchomp, and Scarf Garchomp outspeeds Scarf Jirachi, and that is the game. So, my final thoughts on the first 5 weeks of play. So there are still 2 more weeks remaining, I believe. Is there 2 more weeks remaining? Yeah, there are 2 more weeks remaining. So my final thoughts are, I think I played very well this season. I've honestly played better than I expected, if I'm being honest. I did get fortunate luck against Amy Quaris, but here I think I just played very well against Oldcvcv. So I'm slowly becoming more comfortable with making these kinds of predictions, even though they don't always work. I'm also just learning to slow down and take my time when making decisions. So yeah, I'm glad I'm playing, even though it's this weird format where half the full Corona and Cloister checks have been thrown out of the window. You know, becoming more proficient at playing Pokemon. So thank you for watching, and once the regular season is done, and if we make the playoffs, I might do recaps for those final games that I play. But it is late at night for me, so I should probably go sleep. Hope you guys are doing fine.